Beloved friends of the light, it is Papa Asun from the Radiant Rose Academy that greets each of you, all of our present roses who are studying at the Academy, and I greet all of you thousands of YouTubers who have chosen to come into our YouTube channel and to listen to some of the broadcasts and discourses. I say to all of you that Asun sees each of you as ones who are willing to cultivate your spiritual side of life. After all, you would not even be listening to my discourse if there was not a great part of you that was interested in things of a spiritual nature. Now, beloved hearts, it is very important to me that all of you are able to move your own life experiences in accordance to your own inner truths. As you are all aware, there is much that is going on in the outer world, and almost to some levels of chaos. I would like to take you back to the words of one of the greatest teachers to be recently in your world, and that is the great Lord, beloved Jesus Christ, one of the greatest spiritual mentors, and indeed the living Son of God. And yet also to remind you that this is the true reality of each of you. You are all living sons and daughters of the one mighty God source, the infinite I am. And the words that I refer to, the great mentoring of Jesus Christ, was to seek ye, to try to be in the world, yet no longer of it, to no longer be of the world. Let us explore for a moment. What does this really mean, to no longer be of the world? Well, I would like to suggest that one of the interpretations of Lord Jesus' words is to come to a place where you are your own sovereign being, and to the best of your ability, whilst moving about in the world, you so choose by what is going on in yourself not to be so influenced by what is going on in the world, and that you will recognize, precious hearts, reaction. I have often spoken about reaction versus response. And I hope you will realize the nature of your being, the very innate nature of your consciousness. And regarding consciousness and energy, you are either, by the nature of what is going on in your mind, your attention, you are either sending energy out into the world, or you are taking on the energies that are playing out in the world. Now you know, the world is so filled and so charged with many different experiences, and all of those experiences are energy acting. And best you all own this truth, that every time that you react to what is going on in the world, you are changing yourself. No longer are you the qualifier. Rather, by reacting, your feeling body changes, and your feeling body becomes a magnet that is magnetizing to you the very energies or experiences that you are reacting to. And the way that we fall into that trap is by engaging in what we, the Ascended Masters, teach as 5 human habits that people in the general mass population get themselves involved in. And then they entertain those habits. Habits such as criticism, condemnation, judgment, blame, guilt, all those nasty habits. And it is your willingness to engage in those things in which you are reacting. And when you react, your feeling body becomes a swampland and begins to magnetize to you all the wrong energies and the things that are acting out in the world. And the way I see it, precious hearts, the way I see it, there's very little in the outer world that you would desire that energy coming into your lives. So, I have for several years encouraged our students to try to practice a little formula, and that is to choose how you will respond to anything that comes to your attention, anything that is acting in your world, that you make the personal choice, that you actually say to yourself, I reject any further reacting to what is going on outside of myself. Because the truth is, when I react to something, my feeling side of life changes, and it begins to magnetize to me the very energies of those things that I am reacting to. Now, eventually, this has to stop, and you will all live a happier life, a healthier life, and a more fulfilling life. If you will make a choice, and you have to use your mind, you have to use your convictions. Make a choice. No more reacting. Rather, when things come to my attention, when I am aware of what is going on in the outer world, I will simply take a deep breath and ask myself, how do I choose to respond? What is my response? And hopefully by now, you understand that the wrong use of your own feeling side of life is what has anchored itself in most people's feeling body, and that is fear. And most of you understand this. And with that understanding, if there is any fear acting in yourself, then you must take steps. Take steps to empty yourself, to release that fear, to let it go. And one of the ways we accomplish that is being willing to investigate what is it that I value. Do I value a sense of peace and harmony? Do I value joy? Do I understand that fear is a powerful negative emotion? So negative that it can override my sense of peace, my sense of joy, and my knowing that I can create my own personal experiences and reality. In other words, I can do as the great master advised, to be in the world, yet no longer of the world. And there's another thing that the master said, and realize, precious hearts, that in many ways, Jesus Christ is your way shower. And he intended that all he accomplished and demonstrated, that each of you would ultimately become enlightened, and that you yourselves would be able to demonstrate the same things, have the same accomplishments that he made. And one of the great claims and truths of Jesus Christ is in his words, I have overcome the world. Well, how in goodness can you overcome the world if you're still reacting to it? The one way that ensures that you're still of world consciousness is if you allow yourself to feel the vibration of struggle. When Master Jesus stated he had overcome the world, there was no longer any sense of struggle vibrating in the energy, in the life of Jesus Christ. How do we all come to these places? By making choices. Everything begins with a choice. And then taking steps that back up our choices. If we can realize that if there is a vibration of struggle that's acting in our physical body, our mental, emotional body, if we can have an enlightened moment and face the truth and tell ourselves, if I am experiencing the vibration of struggle, that struggle will do nothing more than create more limitation in my experience side of life. So there we come back to another moment where your own life invites you to use your beautiful minds to make a new choice. Life invites each of you every day in overcoming the world, and no longer allowing what's going on in the world to touch you. Life invites you to use a very simple formula. Accept or reject. And it is your right, beloved hearts. It is your God-given right to accept a thing or to flat out reject it. And all the negative and limiting things that happen in the world, it is your right to reject any of those things touching your life. And for you to self-determine what you accept will act in your lives. Oh, remember, precious hearts, that what we call reality or manifestation or experiences, all that make up the collage of outer life living, all of it is energy acting. And energy can act as certain qualities expressing, yet energy always acts as vibration, as frequency. What does it mean, beloved hearts? This word enlightenment. Let us look past what seems to be complicated, metaphysical, different interpretations of being enlightened. Can you join me, beloved hearts, in taking on a simple truth? To be enlightened simply means to turn and face the light. Can you accept that? Because if you do, every time you turn your attention and you face the light of some great source, and you accept that within that light, a magnificent qualities of life. You can accept it or you can reject it. Every day you can turn and face the eternal sunshine, the sun of even pressure, from your own physical sun, my goodness sakes. You can turn and face the light of soul-stirring music. You can turn and face the light of magnificent beings who were here in this world in other lifetimes, who graduated the divine plan of their lives. Whether it is the Buddha, whether it is Mahatma, whether it is Muhammad, whether it is Jesus Christ, all of these individuals all live in the fifth dimension of Earth or even greater dimensions. And they are all individuals who realized that there is much more to life itself. So let me, dear hearts, let me speak into your life experiences, reality as you experience it. And first, perhaps to understand that your experience in world of manifestation of what is real to you is actually the vast accumulation of beliefs, thoughts, emotions, words, attitudes, perceptions, actions, inactions, interactions with others gathered over centuries of time and handed down through generation and generation. Yet, as beings of infinite consciousness, as creator beings, that all of you in your spiritual search have discovered, you are all innately endowed with the powers of creation to manifest, to experience. Now, we must all of us, be humble enough to understand that we did not create our own consciousness, nor did we create the original energy to source our consciousness through our brain and then begin to create a mind whose purpose is to think and create experience. All of this original consciousness, original energy, all of this, we must be humble in recognition that it comes from a higher source. Whatever name you choose to call that source, call it Bob, call it God. That's up to you. Yet once you are all conscious and grown up in this world, you're adults, your consciousness in your growing up years into your adult years becomes influenced or qualified by a vast accumulation of beliefs that you grew up with or that you accepted from others, or beliefs that you formed from your own experience. Now that's an interesting one, isn't it? Beliefs that you have formed from your own experience. Now that certainly causes me to ask a question. What if your experiences are not based on truth? What if your experiences are just based on what you formerly believed? What if your experience side of life is nothing more than a vast accumulation of your beliefs? And what if you believe, and what if what you believe is not truth? Rather, it's relative truth, or it's a personal truth to you based on your experience. But what if the experience itself was caused by an untruth, by believing in something that was not true? And you put your whole heart and soul into what you were told, what you accept, what you believe, and as a creator being, you go and create those experiences based on your beliefs. And then you say, see, it was true. Well, the only thing that is truth is that you are experiencing, you are manifesting what you believe. Now, of course, all of you can advance your state of consciousness through many fields of advanced study and education. That is a reality. So, as I look upon your world today, I see that the result of all of this that's been going on for generations of time in your world is that there seems to be many states of consciousness. And therefore, there seems to be different states of experience and manifestation. In your world, we observe the mass consciousness of the general population. We observe that mass consciousness of the population of the world is so charged with a belief in two powers. And this belief in two powers has been going on for so many hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of years that the race of your people don't even remember how this belief in two powers has been handed down through your consciousness over centuries of time. Your people don't even know where this belief originated from. We do. We do. Because we are ascended masters. We have overcome the world. We have achieved the divine plan of our lives. And so will each of you. But we know, and it's a long time ago, that this ancient belief in two powers came down from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And today, tragically, the majority of religions in your world do nothing more than perpetuate this hideous belief. And because you all use your creative powers, and you all go along in believing in good and evil, that's what your race is creating. Your race is creating wonderful good things, and your race is creating terrible and evil things. I sure hope that each of you are advanced enough in your consciousness that you can get this, that you get it, and that you also realize that when we use terms as the Great Awakening, or awakening of people that began in the early 1900s and things of a metaphysical or spiritual nature, this began an understanding that your world of experience was nothing more than this horrendous, millions of years old belief in two powers. And once this state of consciousness takes hold, each of you as creator beings, you're endowed with the laws of creation. Each of you create experiences and manifestations that are both negative and positive. So as we observe your world, we say that your world experiences is one of duality forces that are acting out. So again comes this term, enlightenment. And I trust that each of you, through various means and techniques, today you are turning and facing the light. And as more people are awakening, studying and researching and discovering, what are they discovering? They are discovering that there are higher states of consciousness that they can grow into. And as a result, begin to leave behind the lower states of consciousness that are creating all the lack, all the limitation, all the broken hearts, all the disease that is going on in the outer world. So as individuals awaken, and in this awareness that there does exist higher states of consciousness, one discovers this in their spiritual path, and then one begins to appeal to these higher states of consciousness. One begins to appeal to beings such as an ascended masters or great cosmic beings, or angels or archangels or Elohim, great cosmic beings, avatars, immortals. As one awakens upon a spiritual path, one discovers that there is a spiritual hierarchy of beings that are a little bit more advanced than yourselves. And when you discover them, you turn your attention to them, you appeal to them, you pray to them, you decree to them, and you make yourselves an open door where their achievements, their higher states of consciousness can begin to be a source of consciousness where your own experiences then begin to change. And then here and there, and more often here and there are reports. Reports of new things that are occurring in the lives of some of the people. Reports of healing. Reports of miracles. With a realization that these are not coming from the conventional world. With a realization that these miracles or healing, and even long-distance healing, may actually be coming from a higher source of consciousness, whether it is one in your world, a yogi, a guru, a resurrected master, who has become their own individualized source of higher consciousness. The spiritual path is one in which there ought to be a natural appealing. You ought to appeal to those who have attained a higher source of consciousness. Why? So that those ones can help you achieve the same higher source of consciousness. So whether you turn to any of those who have achieved this higher state of consciousness, Jesus Christ, Siddhartha Buddha, the Lord Kutumi, the great Archangel Metatron, and the list goes on. To those on a spiritual path, one of the most brilliant things they discover is that there are those who went first. Those who no longer live in the outer world. They live in the higher worlds, the greater dimensions. And when you discover that they are ready to help. They want to reach their arm, their hand right down through into your dimension. They want to grab you by the hand if you will turn your attention to them. And they want to lift you and raise you above the disharmonies and the discord in this world, and to place you on a path where there begins to be self-change, self-healing. As most people awaken, precious hearts, and take on a spiritual path, they begin to study these higher states of consciousness. And as those states are accomplished, their experience side of life begins to naturally change and improve. Now, beloveds, some discover even higher states of consciousness during moments that I best describe, referred to spiritual discernment. And that spiritual discernment, there is very little evidence that in the outer world of experience and manifestation, that such higher states of consciousness even exist. Some who have discovered, tasted, and seek to evolve themselves refer to the highest state of consciousness possible on the earth as Christ consciousness. This is the consciousness that Yeshu ben Joseph, known to all of you as Jesus Christ, achieved. And in this state of consciousness, one discovers that this is a consciousness of one power and one presence and an ever-evolving state of perfection that grows out from the polarity consciousness of light and love. One discovers that. And as one discovers that there is a highest state of consciousness, Christ consciousness, that exists, and one studies this, and because they quickly learn that in this higher consciousness, it's a consciousness of perfection. There's no battle. There's no duality. There's one presence, one power. And so, as the student realizes this, then begins a new journey. And in that journey, precious hearts, that journey is quickened because you're hearing and you're beginning to taste that in the higher consciousness, there is no duality. There is no good and evil. There is only the one presence and power of all Christ's perfection. And then you also realize that you've got 1 foot in the old world still. 1 foot in the old world that believes in 2 powers and keeps creating the effects of believing in that. So then you begin a journey. And I say to all of you, precious hearts, those of you most advanced in studying too, I say you will quicken your climb into this higher consciousness if you will go on record with yourself and declare to yourself that you flat out reject any belief in 2 powers. And you understand. You are enlightened now. You understand that it is the accumulative beliefs in 2 powers fueled by emotion that was creating all the experiences in the world that are either positive or negative. So let me say once again, precious hearts, in this higher Christ consciousness that anyone can discover who begins to have a quenchless thirst for spirituality. In the higher Christ consciousness, one discovers that this consciousness acts from a place of knowing, because one has discovered in that state and therefore knows there is only one power, one presence in an ever-evolving state of perfection that grows out of a polarity consciousness of light and love. One studying these truths ultimately begins to realize that is the source of your lives. And here you are, the people of Earth. That's the source. Yet they have evolved into something else because they stopped knowing the truth, invented their own beliefs, hideous belief systems. Thank God that within the hideous belief systems of humanity, there is at least a positive side to that. Yet as we watch the history of the world and how fear grips people, we see the negative side of this duality consciousness overwhelming the positive again and again and again. So, precious hearts, this spiritual journey then begins in realization that this higher consciousness, even though it may not be evident in your life experiences, the great revelation comes to the initiate, the student, that this higher consciousness still exists at the center of your beingness. Not the center of your body, the center of your inner consciousness. And when one begins to live a spiritual life, studying spiritual studies, meditating, turning within, making contact with this higher source of consciousness that they have discovered dwells at the center of their life soul, contact has been made, and the unfoldment of this higher consciousness begins to take place. Yet during this process, one must too begin to employ changes of how they're going to live, making a decision to live from the inside out. No longer living from the outside in and realizing every time we react, we're living from the outside in, and therefore what we are allowing, what we are reacting to, the very energy and vibration of that to get into our own lives. As we employ new changes on our spiritual path, we have an understanding of fear, we have a desire to end all fear in our lives because we know that fear supports the lower consciousness that we're all trying to climb out of and creates the limitation that we experience. Furthermore, all initiates on any spiritual path must face the truth that there are 5 human habits which ensure that if you continue to engage in them, those habits are going to keep your consciousness anchored in the lower consciousness of duality. We've talked about those 5 human habits many times. Criticism, condemnation, judgment, blame, and gossip. So the true initiate realizes that by engaging in those habits, we just keep our consciousness at the lowest frequency. So we discern to give those things up. We realize in truth how simple it is. We realize eventually in truth that we all always get what we want. But that's only part of it. Because the way that people act in their lives, people also get what they don't want. Because they struggle against what they don't want, And then they have their own emotional bodies drawing to them the things they don't want. Forget about what you don't want. Focus on what you desire. Changing our life experiences, precious hearts, begins with making change within ourselves, including determining your own personal truths, so that eventually your life experiences mirrors your inner truth. Because remember what I said earlier. Most people develop their truths based on their experiences. But what if their experience was a result of not the truth, but nothing more than what a person believed in? So, how are you going to get around that? By determining your own personal truth that you tell yourselves, so that eventually your life experiences manifest your inner truth. This is a journey, beloved hearts, and a willingness to determine your own inner values. What is it that you value? Establishing your own convictions. Being willing to change your mind. Being willing to live from your heart. Realize you are all given the means, beloved hearts. You are given the means to qualify your life, to determine inwardly how things will work out in your life, even though you may not know the details of how that is going to happen. And as I close, I encourage you to believe in yourself. Be your own person. Determine your own highest truth for yourself. Let other people believe whatever they want to believe. Let time be on your side. Determine to create your own most exquisite realities. Know that your life comes with a higher purpose and a greater plan. And the current storms that are out in the world, let not these things deter you from spiritually becoming the truth that you are magnificent beings of infinite consciousness endowed with the powers of creation itself. How the world ego would love you all to forget that. Papa Sun loves you. Determined to be the living cause of everything in your life. Determine that you are not here to be the effect of someone else's creation. Be willing, beloved hearts, to be a powerhouse, not sucking the energy in from the outer world, rather blazing your own heart's energy and life. Be a sun's presence, pouring your light out into the world. Invite your heart, your feelings to fully cooperate with you. That you wish to create a life using your beautiful minds. Invite your heart to participate with you. And I end with this, because I see the following things create so much dysfunction. I see deep-seated feelings of certain things, and you know not how they are creating limitation in your life. So I say to you, my last mentoring of the moment, I encourage you to abandon all thoughts of sin. Everyone makes mistakes. How can you be in this world and not make a mistake? But lift this huge religious hangover of sin. Remove it from your shoulders. Abandon all thoughts of sin and shame, guilt, and blame, whether on yourself or on others. Freedom. What a beautiful idea. I would like you to prove to yourself what that you can give yourself the gift of freedom by being willing to free yourself of all thoughts and perceptions of sin, shame, guilt, blame on yourself and others. What a gift of freedom that would be. Dream the most pleasant thoughts, beloved hearts. Control what you allow your mind to dwell upon. Establish control over the power of your attention. Conquer yourselves. Be a blazing sun's presence of life, a powerhouse of light and love. This world needs you. But this world doesn't need some false concept of you. This world needs you. In truth, you are a being of light and love. And you can influence. And you can change your realities, your experiences. Let time be on your side. And if any of this makes sense to you, if any of this resonates with each of you, then I say to you, call upon me, Papa, Son, and just say, Papa, help me to make your words with me this day. Help me to make this a new living reality in my life, that I may fulfill the higher purpose of my life and the divine plan of my life. God bless you, beloved hearts. You are loved dearly. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.